If you loved Squid Game or Alice in Borderland, the book series that never tells you the game has started. Every good death game story runs on the same cold engine. You get a number. The number decides where you rank. Your rank decides whether you're worth keeping alive. And none of it arrives with any more feeling than a spreadsheet updating a cell. You watch it happen to people who never agreed to play, and the dread comes from how orderly it stays, the whole way down. Finding that on the page is weirdly hard. Plenty of books borrow the death game shell, and then keep the spectacle while dropping the part that actually got to you, the cold, indifferent scoring running underneath it. So here's what each show nails, and then a series I wrote that hangs everything on that scoring. One warning before we get there. It never rings a bell to tell you the round has begun. If you loved Squid Game. 3 seasons and a global obsession, and it closed out in June 2025, having earned every bit of it. The premise is a blade with no wasted metal. Hundreds of people drowning in debt are invited to play children's games for a fortune, and losing a round means dying in it. From the moment they walk in, they stop being people and become numbers on a tracksuit. Gi-hoon is player 456. His debt is the reason he's there, and his number is all the game will ever call him. What lands is the arithmetic of it. A person becomes a stake, then a tally, then a line in someone else's ledger, with a room full of masked spectators betting on the total. Anyone who has ever felt priced by an institution that had already decided what they were worth knows the exact temperature of that room. The integration era shares that nerve and widens it past the arena. There's no debt to sign here and no host to blame, because the scoring runs on everyone at once and it never stops to explain itself. What carries over is the horror of being reduced to a figure by something that feels nothing while it does the reducing. If you loved Alice in Borderland, if Squid Game's dread comes from the debt, this one's comes from the arbitrariness. A young man and his friends slip into a Tokyo emptied of every other living soul, and the city turns out to be a board. Survival runs on games dealt like cards, the suit telling you what kind of ordeal you're walking into, and the number telling you how bad. Clear it, and you buy a few more days of breath. Refuse, and the sky kills you for it. Season 3 landed in September 2025 and kept the vice exactly as tight. What the show gets right is the feeling of a system that assigns you a difficulty and simply expects you to meet it. Nobody negotiates with the card. The number on it is a verdict about what the day will demand of you, handed down before you had any say in the matter. That's the beam the integration era is built on, minus the empty city. Every person alive gets dealt a reading of what they can do and what they're for, and then has to live inside the hand. The difference is that the players in Borderland always know a game is running. The people in my world mostly don't. The lighter cousin, Black Mirror, for a rating that becomes a life rather than a death. Nosedive is still the cleanest hour the genre has produced, and Black Mirror's 7th season in 2025 proved Charlie Brooker hasn't lost the knack. A world of 5-star scores, where your average decides where you live, and how a stranger's face arranges itself when it turns toward you. Same family as the games above, softer weapon. Her running average takes over her life, until there's nothing left of her the number doesn't touch. Now, the one I made. The Integration Era is a science fiction series about a world remade by an alien system nobody invited. It arrives, switches on without warning, and starts measuring every person alive. 6 stats and a designation, a compact verdict on what you are that the system then works to make accurate. Read high in frame, and it hardens your bones until the reading is true. The number is a claim the machine makes about you, and then sets about proving. What Squid Game and Alice in Borderland can stage inside an arena, a novel gets to run across an entire life. The series follows ordinary people through that scoring, a woman 11 years deep in a corporate job she's good at, who has never once looked at her own metrics. An archivist whose most valuable skill is the one the system was never built to reward. A fire team a corporation can price to the decimal, and if you want the world underneath it, the Garks are the old dynastic houses that saw the scoring coming and refused to let it tell them who they were. The one axis where the series goes somewhere the shows don't is the announcement. Squid Game rings a bell. Borderland deals a card. The integration never does either. There is no host, no arena, No moment where a voice tells you the measuring has begun, because it began the day the system woke up, and it has not paused since. You are already being scored on things you can't see, ranked by an echo reading you'll never be shown, sorted into a designation you didn't apply for. The terror is how completely normal a life spent inside the count can feel. Where to start? If you'd like the feeling at short story length before you commit to a world, Carried Forward is the tightest door in. Petra has worked the same corporate job for 11 years, long enough that the system has raised her level 7 times, while she looked away every time. She has never checked her own numbers on purpose. Then a good day drops the readout she's been dodging right in front of her, and she has to decide whether she wants to know what she's worth to a thing that made up its mind about her years ago. Want the book version of that feeling free? Carried Forward is a 15-minute read, and Petra's answer at the end is the whole reason to take it. You'll find it at integrationera.com. The Foundation Designation Quiz is the closest thing to running the system on yourself without an alien artifact. It takes 4 minutes, and the answer was already true. You've been listening to The Integration Era, stories by Charlie Forrett. All content is copyright 2026 by Charlie Forrett. All rights reserved. Voices produced by Speechify. New stories, world-building deep dives, character dossiers, and more are available now at integrationera.com. Subscribe to get notified when the next story drops. The system is watching. You might as well keep up.